Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the main auditorium. I have some breaking news for you. I am a journalist, so I love breaking news. Let me go to the center of the stage so I can do this for you. All right, so trending in Catalonia right now, hashtag Smart City Expo. You have tweeted and Instagrammed that so much that it is now trending across the whole of Catalonia. And trending in Spain right now, hashtag Screw C19. Congratulations, keep tweeting, keep sharing. Also, one of the ways that you can find out where should I go to next, where's got the most amazing pavilion, what session do I want to see next, everybody who has got a session here is tweeting out and using those hashtags to try and entice you to come into their space. So do keep a look at that. And congratulations to us, we are now trending. This afternoon, we start off our plenary session with Alice Charles, who is your chair. Alice, do come on stage. I love Alice's plenary session. It is so positive. Hello, Alice.
Hi.
I love the title of your plenary session. It assumes the best of governance and finance.
Yeah.
Not the worst, but the best.
And engaging citizens. So
yeah,
looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Alice has a plenary team. Hello, team. Please come on stage. The minute you walk on stage, the audience will erupt into riotous applause. And they will not stop until every single one of you has sat down. Even if you're tired clapping, it will not stop. Fantastic. Alice, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for coming along this afternoon. So this afternoon's session is going to focus on how to make governments more agile, transparent, and participative. And before I do anything else, I'd like to introduce our esteemed panelists. So on my left, we have Cassie Roach, who's the Vice President of Global Public Sector at Cisco. We also have Mayor Rohey Malick Lowe, who is the first female mayor of the city of Banjul in Gambia. And we have Dr. Aisha Bin Bishr, who's the Director General of Smart Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. And we have Deputy Mayor Miguel Sangalang, who is the Deputy Mayor for Budget and Innovation for the city of Los Angeles in the United States. So you're probably thinking, what is this session going to be all about? So I've been asked to provide some introductory comments to just give you a sense for what we're going to be talking about this afternoon. So we all know that we're living in an urban world. We have 54% of our population already living in cities, and we will have 68% of our population living in cities by 2050. In fact, in the next hour, whilst you're sitting here, 18,000 people will move to urban areas. And most of those people will be moving to cities in the global south. So if we multiply that to a monthly figure, we need a new London or a new Singapore every month until we reach towards 2050. I suppose the opportunity to do better is presented by the fourth industrial revolution. It's changing the way in which cities provide services to their citizens and to their residents. After years of building up infrastructure and processes, cities are now able to break down their silos and invite innovation in order to meet the needs of their populations. Cities need to be agile, and that means to quickly adapt to changing needs. That cuts across all areas of urban infrastructure and cuts across processes. At the same time, cities must be transparent and participative, bringing key stakeholders and citizens with them on the journey of transformation. Cities have experimented with innovation and found three levels in which solutions are present. Broadly, first around physical components. So that is how current infrastructure can be adapted to new needs and usages without mega investment, long-term planning processes, or inconvenience for citizens. The second is around digital elements, how new technologies can be harnessed to better understand the trends in citizens' needs, as well as provide insight on current infrastructure and services and optimize their benefits for citizens. The third is around environmental factors, so how the environmental effects of urban activity can be migrated through innovative applications in both the physical and digital spheres. Imagine a city where the government embraces ongoing transformation, it exhibits distributed bottom-up stakeholder leadership, it provides transparent service delivery, it provides permanent stakeholder engagement, open data sharing mechanisms, lean budgeting and participatory budgeting, and speedy procurement processes. They build their foundations organically on an evolution plan in which public policies are constantly designed, prototyped, and tested to address the needs of citizens. Planners efficiently rezone land for temporary uses, buildings serve a diverse mix of uses. Policing and prevention strategies are smart and data-driven. Agencies seamlessly redeploy their IT assets. They provide interoperable transport systems. The energy network maximizes use of renewables whilst ensuring secure supply, and the education system quickly adapts to reflect the economy's changing needs. It enhances citizen satisfaction by optimizing city experience and using regulatory interventions in the fourth industrial revolution technologies. You've just imagined an agile, transparent, and participative city. So in today's session, what we will explore is how governments can make their cities more agile, transparent, and participative, how citizens can be put at the heart of smart city strategies, how governments can best capture the wider benefits and digital transformation that it can bring to people and society, and how the public and private sector can collaborate on this journey. We'll first start by hearing the visions of each of our panelists, then we will have a debate, and we will engage you, the audience, so please make sure you keep your questions because we will be asking you to ask your questions of the panelists a little bit later. And finally, we will wrap up. So without further ado, I'm going to turn to our panelists. And what I'd first like to do is bring in our city voices, as we have three very different city voices on the panel. And what I'd like you to do is outline your vision for how we can make government more agile, transparent, and participative. And maybe if I could first turn to Miguel, do you want to highlight your vision?
Sure, I could do that. Hi, everybody again. Good morning, or afternoon now. Miguel Sanglang. I'd say for Los Angeles, there's really two kind of concepts, and I'll drill into that right after, is really to be future guiding and then to be equitable. Now, future guiding, what do I mean with that? And the mayor talks about that often. In a sense, that's we're very fortunate to be the home of large companies like Disney that have transformed themselves from an amusement park to a huge distribution company, and Tesla, which was an emergent company that came out in Hawthorne, very close to Los Angeles. And so with these assets that we have from the companies that are located there, but not only located there, but also partner with us, like Cisco, who works very closely with our libraries to make sure there's internet access for not only our residents, but for anyone that might need it. You know, that type of collaboration and that guidance for our part in the city and how we both get to that point is quite central to our cause. Los Angeles, for those of you who don't know, it is a very diverse geography with many diverse people as well, and a very large geographic area to govern that has less centralized in most cases for many of our options. So our school district is different from our government, is different from our water kind of control. So it really takes a lot of collaboration to get a better point for our citizenry. Now, talking about equitable, and I was looking at the title of our event, and it has agile, it has transparent, it has participatory, and I think there's a question that lies right before that, which is for who? And I came off of a panel with MasterCard over there at the City Possible, where we had kind of talked about human-centered design, and depending on the relationship, there's different ratios of that between government and the person. So on a macro level, you can talk, as Alice, you were kind of saying, that there's going to be so many more people that are moving into urban environments, but that kind of level of generalization can lead to marginalization, and that's something that we have to safeguard against. So when we're talking about disenfranchised youth from minority populations in South LA who need 5G as well. Those are all populations that we have to consider when we're starting to build this equitable kind of vision for a smart city. And all of that kind of boils down to, on a more practical level, really a personal ID and trust between the government and business, between people and business, between people and the government. That type of fundamental trust is the most basic currency and very much definitive currency that we need in order to start paying our way to the future.
Aisha, Dubai's context.
Yes.
How do you make government more agile, transparent, and participative?
First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me for the 6 years to be here on board with you. And when it's come to Smart Dubai, born in early 2016, but not as a technology per se organization. Our vision is to make Dubai the happiest city on earth, making sure that it is a citizen-centric organization that lead the digital transformation of our city. Seeing Dubai hosting more than 200 nationalities, we also face the challenge of how to include these 200 nationalities in our strategies and initiatives, making sure that all the smart experiences in our city is designed to include such kind of, diversify communities and cultures in our city. And we know that the basic needs for our people is served by government. So we focus on how to make our government smart enough to make our people life much better and happier. We don't want to make people a data carrier to receive their services. That's why we launched what we called the Dubai Paperless Strategy, catering to digitize the city services. We're starting with the government services, but for sure, we do believe in collaboration, and we don't work in isolation from private sector, whether it be in ICT industry, but also in finance, insurance, health, and so forth. And part of what we do in the paperless strategy is to digitize more than 600 services for our people, whether it be residents or visitors. And you can imagine how aggressive is this agenda, and guess what? Our target is to reach in 2021 to have a paperless government in and out in all our transactions. That's why without embracing agility in our systems, it will be very difficult to organize ourselves to digitize these services. We launched what we call the tribe, digital tribe. Squads. Each squad is responsible to digitize a number of services in different sectors. We manage in 2 waves to digitize more than 88 services. By end of this year, we'll reach 100 services. When I say digitize services, it's a full journey, a full experience from A to Z without any paper transactions with the government and without a single visit to our customer centers. For sure, when it comes to inclusivity, other cities find it difficult because like 20–30% of their population, they are not digital literacy. Wherein in Dubai, as I said, our challenge when it comes to inclusivity is the different type of communities living under the same roof of our city. That's why we make sure when we design, deliver our services, is cater for all these nationalities. And again, using the data, opening the data of the government, and very soon also for the private sector, this means that we are embracing the transparency with our people, sharing the data and sharing also the results of our strategies and initiatives.
Thank you, Aisha. Rohey.
Thank you very much. Allow me first to thank the organizers and to say good afternoon to all of you. Our vision is in my city is to make it a very smart city and also to localize the SDGs by 2030, especially the SDG 1, 4, 5, and 16. Many might ask why. Simply because we believe that peace, justice is very, very important. And this is the SDG 16, and also to eradicate poverty, 1, and quality education, 4, and gender equality, of course, 5. And if you look at it in the perspective of Africa, the localization of the 17 goals is very, very important, but I think it's most important also to target these 4 goals, at least to have them more concrete. In my city, I became mayor 18 months ago. It was very, very difficult. I am a mayor in a capital city, of course, but a very, very small city, a city which was used as a political hub. And this is what I always said, that when I came into office, the leadership of women is what motivated me a lot. When I came, we were not able to do much because of the political constraints. So what we do was to try to be very, very inclusive. We reach out to academians, we reach out to the citizens to come and take what they own, to take ownership of the city. So we were able to do a lot through them. And for example, there were no records office in the municipality, simply because it was not taken as the people's own. It was more of a political hub. So what we did is we tried to have a political records office where we will try to know everybody who is working in the municipality and what is going on in the municipality to transmit that to the citizens. Today, I will be very happy to say that the citizens of the city has taken ownership to understand that to make our city a smart city, the mayor cannot do it alone, or the councillors cannot do it. And our first target was also to try to minimize corruption, which is not a secret at all. It's an open secret in Africa, where when you want to fight corruption, it fights you back. So it was also very difficult, and we have a lot of traditional barriers also, which is saying that I don't belong to that office. I have to go back home and sit in in a nutshell, the kitchen should be my business. And okay, being somebody very stubborn, I also fight back and said, no, I belong to where you people belong. And this is at the forefront, the office, of course. So basically, the citizens were very, very helpful. Today we were able to do a lot when we were able to maximize our revenue. It helps us to do a lot. When I came, there were not good toilets in the market. So, and this was the more people that were very vulnerable were the women and the children. They will be in the toilet, in the market for about 7-8 hours without having a proper toilet. So what I did is I tried to collaborate with the Chinese ambassador, who really helped me a lot to have these toilets renovated and 3 of them built. So today at least we have 6 toilets there, and the women can easily go and use those toilets. Of course, the men are always allowed to use that. So we maximize our revenue. I try my best to collaborate also with EU, and today we have 3.1 million euro from EU as a grant. And this money is something that will start, we call it a startup. So my city, I basically look at it as a startup city. So we are going to use this money to at least to use this money to the journey of being a smart city. So basically, this is so far my vision, or our vision, I will say. And we are collaborating also with Standard Chartered Bank, who is also very much in help of the city, sympathetic to the city, I will say, because basically, if you look at this, the structure of the European structure and the African structure is totally different. In Africa, for example, municipalities are basically looked as just a political hub for the executive to come, just use us, do whatever they want with the municipality and go. And for my municipality, I'm saying no. And I mean it, and with the help of the citizens, it's really working very, very well. Because mostly, the private sector is mostly giving their money and working hand in glove with the central government, meaning the executive, but not the municipalities. And normally, The municipalities are the one who is the grassroots. The municipalities are the one voting for the executive. The municipalities are the one owing the forming the community. And about a few days ago, we have been in Durban, and most of you who were there has heard now that we have changed from people listening to the city to cities listening. And I think that is a very, very good strategy. And I heard from our able Secretary General, Emilia Sachs, who said the future of mayors are women. And I will borrow that word from her. And also to encourage us and said, okay, the futures of cities are women, but also it's very, very important for cities to listen. And why is it important for cities to listen? Of course, the answer is very simple. We have to be very inclusive because we are very near to the people. Better say we are the government of the people. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Mayor, on being... Congratulations, Mayor, on being elected the first woman mayor in your city, but also to see the wonderful work that you're doing to ensure that children and women are provided for in your city. So now we turn to the private sector. So Cassie, you heard from 3 very different cities. We heard, around, for example, Dubai being a paperless city through to addressing basic needs around water and sanitation in cities. So in your view, how can government be more agile, transparent and participative?
Thank you, Alice, and thank you also to the organizers for inviting us today. I think one of the things that we see when we talk about participation is it's very important that the citizens or the residents in the communities participate as well. And as we've worked with various municipalities globally, what we find that works best is this ability to be collaborative. So some of the things that we see with the collaboration is an ability to reach out into the communities, to engage, and to help people respond back to their governments in a way that is providing feedback, in a way that the government can hear and can listen to what the citizens need and what the communities need, to be able to use technology occasionally, whether it's our smartphones or some of the collaboration things. Some cities use smart signage and other ways to engage and to get that feedback. And so the idea is to pull the participation in and at the same time to communicate and encourage the participation from the citizens or the residents of the communities. I think the second component that we see very often is then that the governments are working to be more transparent and transformative in the manner that they're communicating, and then the things that they're doing to drive that transparency. So as I know we've talked a little bit about, as the governments are and the cities are trying to say, we want to listen to what you have. Let's listen, let's get the feedback. And in order to provide that transparency, then also push out some of the things that they're doing and work hard on communicating what is happening, even if it's a small step. Some of the places we're seeing being quite aggressive, other are small ways of moving forward and engaging with the communities. And in providing some of that transparency, it helps really drive that engagement. And then what we see, of course, if you have the participation plus the transparency, is you drive the agility. Once you have a nice open dialogue in your communities, and you can do that whether we're using our technologies to do it, and many of us use technology every day from that standpoint, to at least get to a point where you've got that and you can then come back and say, all right, now we can be agile. We know what our steps are, we know where they can be taken, we know how to engage with parts of our community, whether we're trying to drive equity as you are, Miguel, in LA, whether you're trying to drive some of the things from a digital perspective and paperless environment, and then certainly to make things better for all of our families in the manner in which we have to go to work every day. So I think we see many different styles of engagement. Some use MOUs, a Memorandum of Understanding. Some of our cities use that as engagement. Certainly there are public-private partnerships, and I think many of you in the room have participated in that over time. We also see that that's a nice way to bring manufacturing or utilities or part of the government to the table. It's a nice way to bring then any of the other technology components in, as well as go for some funding that's available in many of the communities or from a government perspective. So I think at some point, as you work to drive that, it all comes together, and you then can really make some progress with the agility piece.
Thank you very much. So we're obviously at a Smart Cities conference, so I'm going to have to ask you questions regarding smart cities. So we've heard this recurrent theme across what all of you have been saying about the need to put citizens front and center in terms of the work that you're doing. And maybe if I could turn to you first, Dr. Aisha, just to talk about how you're putting citizens at the heart of your smart city strategy in Dubai.
Today, as I said, our vision is to make our citizens happier and make our city the happiest city on earth. We cannot do this in isolation from our people. That's why when we digitize our city, we start with designing, wherein we collaborate with our people. We launched what we call Citizen Experience Lab, wherein our citizens are invited to reshape with them our services. And by doing this, we can listen and hear to their needs, touching the point that it is really paining for them during their journey when they are receiving services from the government. Technology is not everything when it comes to smart cities. Simplicity is the main element when you talk about smart cities. When we make our cities more simpler, easier, seamless, and safe for our citizens to have their journeys and experiences, this is when we call our city as a smart city. Technology come at the end. You can have Cisco technologies or other providers' technologies. But the most important thing is to listen, as my colleague, the mayor here said, listen to our people and to know exactly what is the burden that they have when they interact with us, and reshape our services and our products to serve them.
Miguel, are there specific examples from Los Angeles about how you're putting citizens at the heart of your smart city strategy?
Yeah, I'd say, just to build on and say something a little bit different, really looking at it from the design point of view, in terms of trying to use social behavior, nudge, right? So many of the things we gladly borrowed from the UK in terms of the behavioral insights team, where we can kind of see what the play is on many of the services that we're providing by shaping it differently. It's always kind of interesting. Everybody here know the food pyramid? That was like in the 90s and 2000s. And that was very confusing, and so they changed it to an actual design of a plate that shows you how much meat, how much carbs, and how much vegetables you can have. So it's much more reflective of what you're facing, right? So it's more of that kind of social behavior, I think, that we're putting, especially how we hire our police officers, how we've been kind of building some of the services, including our business portal, to try and get more people to kind of apply for and understand what it would take to run a company or be a cop in the city of Los Angeles. I think just highlighting some other places that I think are fantastic is I would highly suggest looking at DC and they have something called Formapalooza, and the basis of that is we're going to look at all of our forms every year because our needs for the information that we're generating out of these forms change, right? And so there's always this constant evolution of how the human is reacting to it that we're trying to build in, using academics, using randomized control trials, using nudges and all of those kind of social behavior aspects.
Excellent. And Rohey, you said at the beginning that you're looking to localize the SDGs in your city, but you also want to make your city a smart city. And I appreciate that you're at the beginning of your journey there. So in terms of making your city a smart city, how are you going to put your citizens at the heart of that strategy?
Thank you very much. Just as I said, my city is a very poor city, but that doesn't mean that we cannot do things for ourselves. My strategy, as I said, is inclusiveness. To be very, very inclusive and to be very, very vigilant. Because we have, as I said, we have the central government who does not want the city to move, simply because the city is saying, no, you cannot anymore use me as a political hub. That is the first thing. And the second is looking at the city as not relevant because the leadership is a woman. So what I do is try to sensitize the community, talk to them, not to look sympathetic. This is not something that I want. But we are talking to philanthropists, we are talking to academics, we are trying to do research on how to make our city, as my colleague said, a smart city through simplifying everything because we don't have the means. We have a very small budget. And unless I dance to the tune of the central government, then I'll be able to develop my city the way I want it. But then I said no. So what I do is try to talk to the people, be very close to the citizens, explain to them in detail how important it is for them to take the ownership of the city, to make sure that they own the city. It's not the mayor. I'm just elected. I might not be there in the next 5 years, but the city will be there. So my strategy is only to be very, very vigilant, number one, and secondly, to be inclusive. Because, for example, if 1 year ago, people don't know about the SDGs in my city. So not to bother them with all the 17 goals, I just try to pick 1, 4, 5, and 16 by letting them know that we have to fight tooth and nail to eradicate poverty. But then again, we have to think of education, and not only education that the government is giving us, but the quality education. The children have right to sit on a chair and have a table to the minimum in their classrooms. And again, the gender equality. Listen to them. Take what is important from our traditional values. I'm not saying eradicate our traditional values, but take what is important and ignore at least what is not relevant for us. And this is where we can at least have the gender equality important or women empowerment to say. But in order to do all this, we must unite. We must have peace. And justice must prevail. Without this, we cannot do it at all. There are a lot of problems. I'm faced with migration problem. Not only when you talk about migration, people think of people coming coming from Europe or coming from Africa, from the region in my country, but how about the inner migration? That is also a very big problem. You have people coming from the urban area, from the urban areas to my city every day, and I am faced with that problem. But what I always said is, to be quite honest, when I heard again my Secretary General saying the future mayors are women, I really believe it. Because with all those problems, I am able to handle them only because of the women leadership. This is what is motivating me, and I am able to talk with a lot of women who will tell you, okay, you are the first female mayor. Sometimes, to be very quite honest, it's sometimes very, very difficult, because as an African woman, you sometimes have problems also with your family, who will tell you, okay, get out of this arena, because it's nasty. But then you look at also the other side, where you will see women coming to you every day and telling you, I lost my child on the way to Europe, and people are sick in the hospital, they don't have medicines and all this. So, and for them to fight tooth and nail to put me in that position is really something that is also motivating me very well. So at least, to be quite honest, my city, I am sure, and we are going to reach there. If you look at Rwanda, then only Rwanda will be an example to say that Gambia can also reach there. Before I became a mayor, most of the people don't even know Banjul. But today, wherever I am, if I'm given the platform, I try to also let people to know of my city, at least to come and invest there. We have the land, we have it's a commercial center, it's a hub center for the region, but people are not coming because the city was oppressed by the central government. So at least we have a starting point. The starting point is to make the city known to the international world. And I had The mayor of Holland once said in our one platform, a city without an international friend will not go anywhere. So we are looking for friends. This is where we will start. And then from there, we start cribbling and walking. And then we will be like Rwanda one day, and Dubai, of course. Yes.
You're right. Cities can really get solutions by listening to other cities and, of course, listening to other stakeholders. So, Cassie, with your global remit, you probably are aware of many other examples around the world where, in smart city strategies, where they're putting the citizen at the heart. But maybe you would talk to some of those examples or even some of the principles that underpin those strategies.
Sure, absolutely. So a couple of examples, just to begin with, are any of the places. Hamburg is a great example in Germany where they did a very nice strategy, put a journey out, engaged with the citizens, engaged with the communities, quite nicely did an MOU between a number of the community groups and a long-term plan, and built a strategy, and are working quite nicely on getting to that point where there'll be a smart city, starting with some great projects. Other examples begin in different parts of the city. So it might be education, it might be higher education, where they step in and start there because the research can begin there and some of the investment is already there. So many cities have started there. You've got a bit of the younger and the early in career, and some of the folks who are more familiar with engaging at and the pace that the cities might want to see. That's a very great place to start. And another one is the one that Miguel touched on with public safety. Another great place to engage and have some community engagement and really take that next step and what that means to become a smart city, because there is this idea of data sharing. What is the data that we're going to share? To whom will it be important? Can we monetize it? That's always a question that the cities are asking, or communities, or counties, or provinces. But the local municipalities are asking, can we get that monetized? And in many different circumstances, the data, we don't know how to use it yet. And so that's the reason they start small, or start in a very specific sort of vertical component of what the city is doing. I think then so some of those examples are great places to begin. I think in the other side of that, from a strategy perspective, to be able to get to the citizens and to be able to really have that engagement, it has to be something, of course, that's important to any of us as citizens. And if we're in our communities and we're trying to make sure that they're better for our families and the people we work with and our friends, to start something small there as well, and just begin with a strategy, but do it and do it well and do it quickly, is always, it's the fail fast, or fail and then you find where you can succeed quickly. And I think that's what we really look for when we're engaging.
Excellent. And I'm just going to build on that point. Often when I would meet with city leaders or CTOs, they would often say, technologists don't understand our context in our city, so the solutions that they bring to us aren't necessarily the solutions that will meet our needs and the needs of our citizens. And as a private sector operator in that space, how do you ensure that the solutions that you bring to City Hall are the solutions to meet their challenges and to meet the needs of citizens?
That's a great question, and we're asked that often. Because not only do we want to make sure that we're bringing solutions to bear that are useful and impactful, but the folks that we work with and the government leaders also want to do the same thing. So we begin there. We start with, where do we want to go? What is the impact that we're trying to drive? To whom is it important? And then how do we engage meaningfully, and how can we help one another do that? So it really begins with more of the end in mind, to say, all right, it's not just this one thing, but it could be many different types of things over time. Again, starting small, sometimes with a niche focus, as it were, but it really takes the time to sit and plan and think through, all right, if we'd like to do something in 6 months, what's that? What does that look like? If it's a year, if it's 5 years, when we get to city planning, sometimes those are 10 and 15 years out. And this is quite a difference that we're trying to drive across the board.
Excellent. And maybe if I turn to our cities to understand a little bit more about how you effectively collaborate with the private sector to drive your agenda in your cities. So maybe Aisha first, do you want to talk about what you're doing in Dubai?
Yes. You can imagine when we started the idea of having a smart city in 2014, a queue of vendors were queuing in front of our offices to sell us their products. Our issue wasn't what type of technologies we want. Our issues is to identify the challenges and to find the best solution to overcome these challenges. So our answers were always for these vendors. Our question was, go and bring us the city managers who you work with them, because we want to listen from them. How did they overcome these challenges through technologies? And having this kind of a collaborative approach with the private sector changed a lot the formula how we work with them. Today, these vendors became strategic partners with us. It's not only selling a product, it's how to live with us and how to go with us during the journey of digitizing our city, to understand our needs. And maybe it's not the full stack of their solution, maybe one component of whatever they are providing. And what we are doing today in Dubai is, as I said, to digitize every services in our government. The first phase will be the services provided to individuals, and beyond 2021 will be the services provided to business sector. So we will need a lot of support from the private sector. We cannot say we can do everything. Unless the private sector understand these challenges that we are facing, it will be so much difficult for them to come and sell their services or products. Maybe during the 90s, early 2000, I would not say we as city managers, we were naive, but we will take whatever the vendors will sell us, and we'll feel proud that we work with X and Z. But this is not what we are doing today. Today, we know what we want. We studied exactly what our people need, and therefore we can scan properly what are the systems or solutions that can serve us.
And Miguel, in the city of Los Angeles, how are you working with the private sector?
I'd like to just kind of highlight that I think both Aisha and Casey, you hit on absolutely the tone that we should be taking, because it's not about competition or competitiveness. It will be at some point, but to begin with, it should be collaborative. And we have far more to gain being collaborative rather than combative or competitive. And so, in that spirit, Los Angeles itself has had success with our clean tech incubator, which has helped bring in companies working with the public sector and the private sector to start incubating new companies also in Los Angeles, so that we can have new technologies that we need to adapt to grapple with climate change and sustainability in the future. Right? We actually just launched last week a urban mobility lab to try and tackle traffic. This is in partnership with Lyft and Waze and other companies as well to handle, I think, iconic problem of LA, which is traffic, right? There are other instances. We have a collaborative called I3, Integrated Internet of Things Consortium, which is working actually with the University of Seoul, Warner Brothers, Verizon, AT&T, to kind of think through what will be the next kind of juxtaposition, the next kind of platform for IoT technologies, and what does it actually take to have many different kind of brands at some point talk to each other and be what you're saying, the outcome that we want. So that level of initial collaboration. By the way, I've never seen an environment until recently where there's so many different companies that are willing to just try something. The level of civic engagement at that point, extraordinary, especially with Cisco, especially with Microsoft and others. So right now is the time to do it. There's ways to do it, small partnerships. We don't have to throw out procurement. In fact, that safeguards us against making sure that it's not any type of bad thing that we don't want, not fraud, not abuse, not waste, but it allows us to experiment, as we're all saying.
Excellent. And Rohey, are you managing to leverage the private sector in your city of Banjul?
Thank you very much, Alice. It's sad to say that the private institutions are not very cooperative when it comes to working with the municipalities. Just as I said, they are more into working with the executive, like the central government, than the municipalities. But I'll be happy also to say that we are working hand in glove. Our close collaborators are UN and EU. And I think that is also a very good start towards doing my city as a smart city.
And you'll meet lots of people here at the Smart Cities Expo, so hopefully they'll be wanting to do business in your city in the future.
And by the way, I'm hoping anything that Los Angeles either fails at or succeeds, we're able to share that with you. So,
absolutely.
You know, I think it's about us collaborating at that level,
Absolutely.
right? So.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the benefit of mayoral networks as well. It gives mayors an opportunity to exchange on their challenges and the types of solutions that they're employing. So,
To be honest, Alice, in all the international efforts, it's always been collaborating between countries, not cities, wherein, as Her Excellency said, the work is there at the municipality level.
Yeah.
So we will need such kind of effort, organizations, international platform to allow us as cities to share these experiences, to share startups that are grown in one city to run their solution in other cities. And I know that we work with the WEF to collaborate around cities.
Yeah.
We do also something similar when it comes to the United Nations under the SDG 11, which is collaborating around the cities. We will need more of these kind of efforts to let us work together from an execution perspective as cities.
Yeah, completely agree. And now there's an opportunity to bring in the audience. So I know that we have microphones somewhere in the room. So if you have any particular pressing questions that you'd like to ask anyone on the panel, could I ask you to stand up, identify yourself, and who your question is for, and of course what your question is.
Hi, morning, good afternoon now. I am Roberto Zambrana, I'm coming from Bolivia. I also work in the city hall in Bolivia. So, as you already said, there are several difficulties that we have to face. Particularly, I would like to ask Aisha, how did you deal in terms of participation? Because so far we've heard a lot about all the nice improvements you made regarding to digitizing projects, digitizing services. But the other important part is also to listen to the people and to allow them to work in public policy, to know what they really want for their city to have. What are the experiences you have regarding participation? Maybe you can give us some particular example of one policy that you actually built with the citizens.
Sure. If you allow me, Alice, to answer you, first of all, thank you for these questions, and we are blessed to have a leadership who are pushing us as a city managers to listen to our people and to embrace them, bringing them on board when it comes to policy making. I will give you one example that I think happened 2011, 2012, when we wanted to put a policy around when the school should start. As a Muslim country, we have a holy month, and then the school should start either it's supposed to start in the middle of this holy month. So our Prime Minister, he sent in his Facebook channel asking people to vote. Do you want the school to start during Ramadan, the holy month, or after Eid? So that we can write this policy. And yes, the vote came from everyone that we want the schools to start after this holy month. So we took that example and put it in action in all what we do. For instance, today, as I speak, my colleague here who is running the data establishment, we are co-creating the private sector data policy with the private sector members. We do focus groups, we listen to them, we write drafts, they revise it, and then we take it to the legislative custodian to approve it for us. And we have many examples around embracing people, not only from a policy-making perspective, but also from delivering services. We do use all the latest technologies, I would say, the social media channels to listen from people, whether it be us as a city managers, but also the official channels of our organizations to make sure that all their requests or their needs are listened and we take action on top of it. We do have also, when you said localizing the SDGs, we want also to make sure that our culture is embracing these new platforms or technologies. So back home we have what we call the Majlis, or the courtyard of the ruler, wherein people can sit, share their ideas, share their suggestion with the ruler. This used to happen 200 years ago. It's not easy now to do it with 200 nationalities. So we form what we call the Smart Modulus, where it is an application for everyone to come, suggest, complain, just like give a good compliment for anyone in the government. And we do take it seriously. There are KPIs. We have full-fledged procedures to take these suggestions to make sure that they are implemented, and people who suggested are rewarded, and we put their names in the media to recognize their input for the government. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other perspectives? I know the question wasn't addressed to you, but any other thoughts that from your perspective in LA or Banjul? No? No? Okay. Any other questions from the audience? Oh, yeah, here's their second person.
Hello, I am Matthias. I am the founder of Quorum. We provide citizen engagement technology for governments already in 6 countries, but we're still a startup. And it's really difficult for us to approach big governments like the city of Los Angeles, because the process is more simple for big corporations like Cisco than for us. How could we approach your governments in your 3 cases to offer you our solutions?
So I guess the question is, how can startups approach cities? So as Los Angeles was mentioned first, do you want to respond?
Yeah, sure. That's an easy question. Thank you. But I think, well, first of all, I think the U.S. Pavilion will actually be hosting a session on that. So there will be more. And obviously, there's different contexts for every city. But I think broadly speaking, there's a few things in that we're trying to, first of all, be very clear on what we're hoping to achieve, right? So that's why we produce our sustainability plan, which has metrics and goals, of which then we're looking for companies that are actually aligned to that. In addition to that, we're also trying to make sure that most of our processes are as Aisha is doing, digitized on our end, and trying to find different ways to procure. So we have like an innovation fund that is about like $1 million, but it's looking for new ideas from our departments, and there's many different companies that have actually kind of been in partnership with our departments then coming through there. So there's more innovative kind of procurement practices that are coming out. There are plans that I think outline more specific kind of concrete paths that we're looking for. And I think the other piece of that is it kind of depends on your regulatory body. So I'll say just an example. In Los Angeles, we were known for smog, air pollution, right? And we've done policies to drive that down. Well, if we're looking for devices that deal with air quality and kind of reading that, if the California Air Resources Board does not approve that, then it's difficult for us to use that, right? So there's different kind of governing bodies. And again, all of that, I think, gets cleared up a little bit more with the U.S. Pavilion. And to be honest, I think all cities can always do more to be more transparent on that aspect.
I mean, I'd also hear one component. We acknowledge that us as a government, procurement system is not meant to capture SMEs and startups. That's why back in Dubai, we had a policy that 10% of the government procurements should happen with SMEs and startups. Not only this, because we do believe that today in this digital era, the solution will not come from the big companies, it will come from startups being around IoT or blockchain or AI. The startups, they have this kind of flexibility to bring these solutions to be tangible for us as as receiver for these solutions. That's why, again, in Dubai, we do have different platforms to attract startups, not only local startups, but also international startups. One of them is the government accelerator, wherein we, as a government, we share our challenges, and then we attract startups to solve these challenges through an accelerated program, and then they will be, after the proof of concept, they will be awarded a direct contract with the startups. The second platform, which is specifically around the blockchain technology, we do have our global blockchain challenge that are run this year for the 3rd year. When we started this challenge, we attracted 70 plus startups. This year, 200 startups from more than 70 countries from the global. These startups, they are not only pitching their solutions, they are also provided a network platform wherein they will network with government challenges that they can fulfill with their solutions. So yes, we are endorsing startups, we are endorsing SMEs through different platforms because we acknowledge the importance of this sector for our economy.
And Rohey, are you working with startups at all?
Yeah, of course, I have at least a few of them that I am working with, even though we cannot help them a lot. But what I normally do is if I have platforms like this, I also apply for them to come, and so that they can network and collaborate with other institutions as well.
Excellent, you bring your message to the world.
Awesome.
And Cassie, do you have collaborations with startups?
I think we might, yes. We do. It's one of the things we believe in terms of, from a number of different types of perspectives, of course, finding the next relevant technology. That way you would assume that we would be looking for those sorts of things. But we also do it to make sure that we are engaging in economic development in various components, from minority investments to simply looking at innovative things that people bring to us, and we again tend to invest in, but much smaller level, so it's not a minority investment. And we also employ that technique when we're doing and looking at public-private partnerships with our cities to be able to say, all right, how can we bring some of the startups into that picture? What does that look like? And how does that serve then the longer-term outcome?
Great.
Yes.
I think we have time for one more question, and we have a young man right over here who wants to ask a question.
Hello, my name is Gedeon from Ethiopia, and how children can collaborate to build smart cities.
Excellent, thank you. And I guess that question's for everybody. Everybody on the panel? Yeah? Okay, so how can smart cities collaborate with children to build smart cities? And I think, Rohey, you already were talking to that, so maybe do you want to answer first?
I think that's a very, very good question. As I said, it's very, very important. This comes again in the concept of the inclusiveness, as I said, because children, women, and the disabled, they are very, very vulnerable. So they need also to have their voice in whatever the city is doing, because as much as they are very little, but you wouldn't believe how their input could be very, very important. So if you look at it again, like the disabled, sometimes I have this problem many times in my city, where you will see the government will come and just design the city the way they want it, and just come and say, okay, this is what we want you people to do, without even thinking of the mindset of the child and the disabled as well. So I think what he said is extremely, extremely important, to listen to children, disabled, and women if you want to have a very, very a successful smart city.
Yeah. Aisha?
Well, first of all, I was really surprised to have a young gentleman here with us to ask us this question. What we do back home is to embed in the curriculums of schools around smart cities, around lately the federal government approved the artificial intelligence curriculum to be also embedded as schools. We started early 2000 by embedding also technology as one of the major topic in schools. Every school will have a lab, just to give them this awareness of how to deal with the technology. And to be honest, our kids are much comfortable with technologies than us. For them, it's by default. They don't fear using and touching and playing around technologies. I do believe that today it is so much important to bring them on board. I've seen an example in the Netherlands where when they designed their strategy for 2030, they've interviewed kids at schools. And from those kids, they put the statement of their strategy. I wish we can do something similar also back in Dubai, wherein we take this input from the kids at school to see how the investments happen today in technologies will allow them to live a better life in their future.
Yeah. Miguel?
Just a quick statement on that one. I think they're probably going to build the smart city that we all want. And an aspect that I wholly believe that education and approaching them and collaborating with them is the way. So any way you can talk, Twitter, Instagram, just say something and we should listen.
Yeah. Cassie?
Well, let's start with maybe we have earlier in career already. I'm sure many of us were thinking of that already. But so many of the comments here have been focused on what are we doing for education and what are we doing to make sure that the underserved or others have a voice and have a method to be able to participate in what's going on in our communities. Much of that, I know there's a lot of detail and research going on around transportation specifically to make sure back to women and children because they move around differently during the day than often we are doing with men in transport to work and some of those other things. So very many opportunities we engage with around the world with women in technology and different STEM organizations, so science, technology, engineering, and math, to make sure that we're bringing the younger crowd into everything that is possible and make sure we get some feedback from them along the way. So I would just say back to our younger crowd to just participate. And that's what we're hearing from everyone. Participate in any way that you can.
Yeah, and I think as an urban planner, I always say that children are free thinkers, so they provide the very best ideas. So it's really important to engage children in everything that we do. So unfortunately, we have no more time for questions, and we've actually ran out of time. So if you have any other burning questions, you're going to have to speak to our panelists individually. I just want to thank each and every one of our panelists. They have been absolutely excellent. And also to thank you for so many of you turning out to come and see this session. And finally, to our organizers. So I hope you enjoyed this session. And if you want to read any more about Agile cities, Aisha mentioned earlier her involvement in the World Economic Forum Global Future Council on Cities and Urbanization. And we produced a paper called Agile Cities Preparing for the Fourth Industrial Revolution. So that will give you more ideas. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.